one of the things I find it quite interesting to do, usually when I'm on these walks, I have to say, is to kind of try and really notice the detail of the phenomenological experience that I'm having. I guess this comes out of a project that kind of threads its way through a lot of my thinking and indeed these videos, I suppose, which is this idea that conceptualization, understanding, thought, consciousness, our ability to comprehend abstract ideas, all that kind of thing, takes its form from the evolved ability we have to make sense of our sensory data. That's kind of where I'm coming from. In addition to other kind of objectifying processes that we can have through interpersonal exchanges and heterophenomenological exchanges. But I guess what I'm interested in is that relationship between the structure of our actual lived experience, the unalloyed sense of what happens when you stand and look out at the world and listen to the world and feel the world under your feet, those kind of things. What's the relationship between the structure of that experience and the structure of more complex comprehensions or more abstract comprehensions? And again, as I say, this comes out of conceptual metaphor theory, cognitive linguistics, embodied cognition, that whole set of ideas. But as I say, one of the things I find quite enjoyable within that as an exercise for myself is to try to pick up on the details of phenomenological experience, to think how they might be working. Because I'm presuming it's not just the kind of gross aspects of it. It isn't just the fact that seeing is different to hearing. It's the details of seeing and the details of hearing. I've spoken quite a bit before about the differences in sensory mode and how those differences map onto different forms of comprehension, different methods of understanding the non-understandable. But I think even within those sensory modes there's enough distinction and enough structure and order and organisation to itself make a contribution to those organisation processes. And the really obvious ones, the ones I've spoken about before, are things like perspective. Things get smaller as they go further away. Things near to you loom, take up more of your visual field. And there's a kind of organisational logic to that, which I would be surprised if it didn't form part of our epistemology, the epistemology of our understanding of more abstract relationships. But also I think even within that there's more detailed, within that and alongside that there's other detailed bits of phenomenological experience which form part of that epistemology. Just a couple I've been thinking about. The one I've been thinking about right now is to do with what happens when you see rain falling down, or you see anything falling actually. I was driving down from Leeds, or across from Leeds last weekend with my kids, and we're coming over the moors, and you could see rain in the distance. There was dark clouds, you could see rain falling. And I love seeing rain fall from the distance, how it drags those kind of filaments of cloud down with it. It was quite far away, probably at least 5 miles away. And it was taking up a very small area of space. The kind of arc it was subtending on my retina was very narrow. So that the actual distance that the rain was falling from my within the context of my experience was very small. It was just kind of, I'll do this with my hand even though it's not terribly illustrative. It was just kind of doing this on the horizon. That was it. That was what rainfall was like. But when rainfall comes closer to you, and when anything falls closer to you, it subtends a greater arc in the retina, it falls a greater distance, it takes up more of your visual field. And that keeps happening until something is falling really close to you. And at that point it kind of enters the visual field, falls all the way through the visual field and falls out the other side. And of course if rain's falling right when you're under it, or if anything falls out even under it, it doesn't enter the visual field at all. It just kind of, it doesn't just emerge out of this dark space above your eyes, fall to the brightly lit space and enter the dark space again. It's just in the dark space the whole time, but you experience it as something falling on you. It becomes kind of very physical, visceral sensation at that point. I don't know what that means in terms of an organizational structure, but that's such a common experience. Again, I'd be surprised if that doesn't have some kind of if it doesn't become available as an organization for other kinds of logic. I mean, there's a verticality, a logic about the relationship between vertical motion and distance on the horizontal plane, which is completely organized within that observation. You know, the things that are further from you fall downwards a smaller distance. I know they don't really, but from personal experience they do. So there's some kind of, as I say, some kind of structure there, which if I was designing an epistemology, I'd think that was complex enough to be able to utilize. No rain today, yet.